Welcome to another episode of Sales Chatter. We apologize. We had a few tech issues this morning. They could put a man on the moon and time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. And sometimes we can't go live, y'all. But today, seizing the woo, the window of opportunity, and how do we build a bulletproof team with my dear friend, Brian Biro, America's breakthrough coach. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. And Lisa comes in with the crushing victory over Jeff. 4 days in a row, beat him out. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Mind blowing. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, John. Good morning, everybody.
Man, you're getting close, Josh.
Yeah, Joshua's coming in. Brian, thank you so much for being here, brother. You know, it's we're just honored to have you. I know that you're on the road and you're still so Brian woke up this morning, internet wasn't working, and you're kind of running and rushing to figure things out, but he's still here. I have to share for all of you that didn't see the full day live stream that DJ and I did back. DJ, was it December or January? I think it was January 2022, right? No, December. It was December 15th. It was for prior to Christmas. Brian came on. Brian and I have been dear friends for gosh, Brian, it's like a decade and a half almost. Brian introduced me into the world of don't be afraid to contact people. Just a great mentor, great man. You guys are going to love him. Brian, thanks for being here, brother.
Hey, I hope I'm here. I'm been playing with this. Your voice was going, my voice was going. I see your smiling face. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you, brother.
We got you.
You're all good. So the big question, okay, so as we dive into today, as the world keeps shifting and changing and, our careers start consuming more of our lives, I'd like you to go back and kind of share this window of opportunity, the woo, and also talk about the presence, because I know to set the baseline for everyone, can you just go back and share your story about when you were in logistics and transportation and kind of what that transition was to seizing the woo and how it matters in our everyday life?
Absolutely. The starting place is woo stands for window of opportunity, which is every precious moment, which means you never know if the next person you'll meet as when I met you in Toronto many years ago, if that person may become a lifelong friend. You never know if the next time you talk to your son or your daughter, your spouse, your teammate, the person you're sitting with right now, if the next thing you say in the next conversation may be so on target for what they didn't see with their own eyes, but you saw it and then you said it. And because you seized that woo, somebody's life got better. You never know. So the question to everyone, because everyone is a leader, not is there a woo? There is. The question you got to ask yourself is, how many of those puppies have we missed? Right? And why do we miss them? And one of the key elements about seizing the woo is to elevate your energy. Right? And energy allows you to seize more woos. You ever notice that when you're full of energy, the energy's no problem. It doesn't matter how you've been sleeping or when you get to do what you love to do, when you get to play hockey, Dan, all right, life is cool. All right. You are 5 years old. Let me at it. But it's when we lose sight of our purpose that we lose the woo. So when I started my life, I've had 3 careers. The first career was a U.S. swimming coach, and I loved it, but I had no life. And so I'm probably the only person that either of you have ever met who got an MBA to get a life instead of a job. All right? And I did. That's when I met my wife. That's when I got in good physical health. So many things happened. But that's when I also started my corporate career. And I ended up going into transportation, working for the Linden companies, a very big multi-dimensional transportation company based in Seattle. As I worked there, I found something that is so common in certain teams. I found siloing. Operations hated sales, sales hated operations. They both hated home office just a little bit more. All right. And that made no sense to me with my background in sport about the power of a team and how you want the different parts of a team to appreciate one another. You can't be a winning hockey team and have a silo against your goalie. It doesn't matter how many goals you score if that goalie's going to not work for you, and vice versa. So that's when I started doing team building events for my own company. I was vice president. I saw this siloing. Everybody else was saying, it's the market, it's the timing. We have to wait for the market to come back. And I said, you know what? It's not the market. It's us. We don't appreciate each other. We don't support each other. We don't lift each other. And so I started doing these events, and they went great. And our company had this incredible turnaround where we went from basically nearly going out of business. This is a 75-year-old company, to being the best in our business in logistics and customer convenience. We became very profitable. We quadrupled in size. We became UPS in Canada, in all the parts of Canada except the 8 major cities. All right, so we delivered. We were UPS in Alaska and Canada, and everywhere except in Canadian major cities, which of course means in all the other cities of Canada, that's about 13 people. All right, so we served those 13 people out in the Yukon, and we just had a rocking time. But even better than our success on the bottom line was the way that our team functioned. People were constantly catching each other things right. There was this powerful feeling of mutual support, a whole new level of kindness in our organization, and it lasted and lasted and lasted. So right at the peak of this massive turnaround, I said to my wife, honey, we're doing great. Let's quit. All right. I want to go do what I love to do. And what I love to do are these events. So that's called Season the Woo. But it was a woo that was a little shaky, because it's like diving off a diving board and hoping there's water on the other side, and it's a high dive. But it turned out, because when you seize the woo with full energy, yeah, you'll amaze yourself at what's really inside of you. So that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Excellent.
He touched on so many good points. I love Brian that touched on, because it's no matter what. So I was a server, worked in the restaurant industry, done home improvements, and no matter where you're at, it seems like one team against another. It was cooks against the servers. Oh, the servers are lazy. Oh, they just this. Oh, the cooks are dumb, and they this, and it's just this constant battle. And I always thought the same thing, like, why? We're all on the same team. Why are we doing this? Like,
absolutely. I used to talk about this as a coach. People think of swimming as an individual sport, but they're wrong. They have no idea how much we mean to each other. But this is where I really understood it, because every day in practice, when we worked together, when everybody pulled together, it was honest to goodness like we had a massive current pushing us faster. And every time we did that split, cooks against the servers, it was this: we had to turn around, you would U-turn and try to swim into that current, and it slowed us down. Well, every business has a current, and only when you come together will you get that current to serve you, to push you forward with more acceleration. And if you just stop for a second, it's just perspective. I've never met a great salesperson who loves to do operations. I certainly don't love to do administration. And I've never met an operations person who really wants to do a ton of sales. So we should be appreciating each other to do the stuff we don't love to do, and maybe we're not as good at, and give those others the ball. And when we do that, suddenly we build trust, we build momentum, we build focus. We're focusing on the things we can do instead of the stuff we can't do. And that's the only way we can really rise to our potential.
So Brian, so if a salesperson that's watching right now, or operations persons, or owner, or VP, or whatever level you're at in your company, and you're watching this right now, and in their head, they're going, okay, that makes sense, but like, where do I start? How do I start mending that gap, or building that bridge to mend those challenges and issues? Because you're right. A lot of salespeople get pissed off at operations when something goes wrong, because it's directly affecting the salesperson's wallet. Vice versa, the salesperson says, well, it needs to be done this way, and operations person says, yeah, but it's really effective doing it this way. And it's one of the hardest things to let go of as a salesperson is your ops, because in sales, we bring in the business, but operations keeps the business and actually grows the business. And for all of you in operations, you're actually the best salespeople out there, just so you know. how would you suggest we start managing that piece of it, Brian?
Great question. And the starting place is to really understand that we only really see when we control our controllables. It's when we're trying to control our uncontrollables and probably we had the best, the most challenging example of this over the last 2.5 years called COVID. COVID is real. COVID is a challenge. But as long as we focus on the things we don't control during that time, we become frustrated, lost. But when we focus on what we do control every day, we're starting to focus on what we can do. Either way, what you focus on is what you create. So there are 3 fundamental controllables that, one, allow you to keep moving forward individually in your role as salesperson or operations. The 2, they really get you to bring the highest energy to whatever you're doing and everyone that matters to you. And 3, the third controllable is about building relationships. So the first is to shape your future. All right. And you start with the end in mind. All right. What you start with is looking at a team. If you don't see yourself as one, then you're going to see yourself separately. So start by understanding that what I want to do is create an unstoppable team that supports each other. We see it all the time in sports. You can be the greatest individual when you're on the ice by yourself playing hockey, but if you don't have a team passing the puck to you, you're not going to score any goals. If you don't have a goalie who's going to stop the other team, it doesn't matter how well you're doing. So start by understanding the end in mind is that we do create this synergy. That's about shaping your future. See it every day. Work on it visually in your mind. Secondly, is understand that we have responsibility to energize and engage our team. When it comes to human performance, when it comes to breakthroughs, when it comes to really, really maximizing your fulfillment in all you do, a huge amount of that is about energy. But so many people think that their energy is like the weather. It's like, sure hope the energy, the weather's great for my family. Hope the weather's great when I go on spring break. But your energy is a choice. It's a controllable. And so to take charge of, and before you can energize and engage your team, who must you energize and engage?
Yourself.
So you start by focusing on really building your own energy, and it's contagious. But the third and foremost key to really building teams and breaking through silos is the third controllable: build people, build teams, and build relationships. Yeah, everyone who watches your show, a lot of people watch your show, I'm sure it's spreading to other industries. If you ask them what they do, they probably say, I'm in the transportation field. True. But what field is it really? It's the people field. Mm-hmm. It's the relationships you build. It's the way you grow and you help others grow that's going to determine how far you go. So how do you build relationship that breaks through those silos? Well, the first and foremost foundation of that is to be fully present. I'll give you a couple great examples. When I was in my transportation career, until I started to wake up about how we were so separated, our vice president of operations and I were exactly at bumping heads all the time. The only time that we would stay together was when we had to be in the same meeting. All right, his office. I'm embarrassed to tell you this. His office was next door to me, so I'm in charge of sales and marketing. He's in charge of operations. There's a little bit of drywall between us. I never spent more than 2 minutes with the man, unless I had to be in a meeting, and then he'd be on his side, I'd be on my side. When I started to understand the power of synergy, the power of building teams, people, and relationships, one day I went into his office with no big agenda, just to go in and kind of get to know him. We'd sat next to each other for a year, but we didn't know each other. And I looked around and I saw that he had pictures on the wall about bicycling. He was a competitive bicyclist. And I was doing marathons at the time. I go, wow, I didn't realize that. See, here was the challenge. He was in out of operations. He loved to look at the problem and dissect it. I was always going, let's move. So it was like bumping heads. Well, I sat down in that office with him, and for the first time ever, instead of just talking about what I wanted to do, I started asking questions. I started asking about his background. I asked him about his family. I asked him about his bicycling. And I really listened. Well, we were in that office for an hour. The only time we've been fully present, which means 100% of your mind, body, and spirit is with the person you're with where they are now. We didn't talk about business. We didn't talk about all that. We talked about our humanity. We talked about things that matter to us. At the end, we talked about what we wanted for the team. Well, when I walked out of that room, there was a whole new leadership team. From that point on, I would never have a sales meeting without operations being present. They never would have an operations meeting without sales present. And we actually listened to each other. And that's when we started to turn it around. So the starting place to break through those silos is to be fully present. Another example, when I left the corporate world, when I left the transportation business, I became vice president for a while of a very large international training company. I inherited a director of operations who had the greatest name ever. Her name was Raffaella Regina Rossi. All right. We called her R3. Now, she was the head of operations for us. And when I took over as her boss, she could not stand me. Now, I'm not used to this because I love people. I get along with people. But the reason was I had replaced somebody that she had been extremely loyal to. And she construed that it was my doing, that I had forced him out, which was not true, but that's the way she took it. Now, for a while, we tried to pretend that we had a pretty good relationship. How effective do you think that was? You know,
Not very
everybody knows. Everybody knows when there's that tension. Everybody knew it at my transportation company. People are walking on eggshells, just looking behind them, not looking forward. For a while, I tried the stuff I thought you were supposed to do as a leader. I gave her compliments. That didn't work. I gave her space. That didn't work. I gave her direction. That didn't work. One day, I finally remembered my job. My job was to help Raffaella know how important she was. And so I asked her to come in my office one day, sat down with her, and I was dead dirt honest. I said, Raffaella, our team is going nowhere because I haven't been a good enough leader to find a way for you and I to work well together. So I asked you here today to do something I know at first will sound a little odd, but I really have a reason. I said, if you will allow me for 10 minutes, I will just listen to you. You have a free pass. You can say whatever you want, however you want to say it. I will not argue. I will not defend. I will not interrupt. I will not ask a question. I will just listen. And said, all that I ask is at the end of those 10 minutes of just listening to you, you do the same for me. Would you try it? And I'll never forget Raffaella's answer. She said, Brian, I don't think I could talk for 10 minutes. I said, Raffaella, we want to break through. We're not doing anything. Would you try? And she wanted it as much as I did. Well, an hour later, she stopped talking. And in that hour, I just listened. I was fully present. I didn't say a word. And in that hour, she completely transformed our team. She realized she had not really given me a chance. She realized that if we put our energies together with our separate kinds of strengths, we would become an incredible combination. Most of all, she remembered how much she loved what we could be doing and should be doing, but weren't doing because of our stuff. When we left that room that day, over the next 6 months, we got more done than we had in the previous 3 years. People were rocking. It was such an energy of support and fun, creativity. To this day, 35 years later, she's still one of my dear friends. Even though she still owes me my 10 minutes, I never got my 10 minutes.
Well, you never got to speak for your 10 minutes.
But in that time of simply being present, just listening to that person who had previously been in a silo and I'd been in mine, we broke through all those barriers. So the starting place and the most important key, Dan, to really break it through and starting to build those bridges that is separation, just be present and just listen. Because what they're bringing you is a perspective that can make it richer because it's not yours yet. And if we can put those together towards that vision we have for one team, we can become unstoppable.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
We're gonna just break for some comments here, Brian. But I do have a question for you after that. I think dovetails into that and is the starting point of all of it. Lisa says that's how I met Chad Petty when we met in Vegas. That's awesome.
Yes.
Joshua says the power of teammates is so often lost in companies, and how much we accomplish by lifting each other up is amazing. Such good stuff. So
Yes,
true.
sir.
So true.
Beautiful.
And Richard says a common thing in many companies is logistics makes news. Finance reports it. Logistics isn't going to do much if the bills don't get paid. You know, Richard, you are so right. Oftentimes when we sit down with companies, it's like, what's your cost to invoice? And are you really making money? Because salespeople, they might think, oh, you know, like if I make $50 a load, I'm making the company money. But if the company's invoicing cost is $70 a load, you're actually losing $20 each time you book that load, right? And it's every department in conjunction and every department working together as a team makes a company profitable. I love that. Jeff says it's all about collaboration, Brian. You truly cannot move anything forward unless you are unless you are one. Yeah, as one, right? Yeah. Joshua comes back and says, start by asking myself the right questions. How can I empower? How can I enrich? How can I be one of service? Then the walls come down and people have a tendency to meet you halfway. If we should respect, if we should respect understanding the ability to listen and hear.
Yes, sir.
Brilliant.
That's powerful stuff.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Good morning, Team Woo, Preet. And then Jeff comes back and says powerful stuff. So I do have a question on that, Brian,
Good
because
stuff, John.
you know,
Let me jump in real quick though. You guys just ignited, those comments ignited something that I don't think you've ever even heard, Dan, before. And that is in another industry, but all industries are the same. We're people industries. I worked with a huge healthcare company called Kaiser Permanente. They are the country's largest HMO in the United States. Yeah. They have 13 million members. I worked for one of their medical centers. They brought me in because their MCH, which stands for Mother Child Healthcare Group, was doing terribly in terms of all their metrics. And they are very keen on metrics about patient care. And I interviewed all of them, and guess what I found out? We had siloing. We had the night shift didn't trust the day shift. Day shift didn't trust the night shift. There was a silo between the three groups in it, which was there's basically post-birth, there and the NICU, which is neo intensive care unit, all right, and there's the regular nurses who are working in delivering babies. And there was each one was in their little box. So we came up with something that every one of your teams can apply that I call the four W. And we started to build it in our team every day. The first W, the place where they could really start to break through, was stood for welcome. Every time you get a chance to talk to a teammate, every time you get a chance to talk to a potential customer or a customer, make them feel welcome. All right. And that's by really being present with them, appreciating that they are there, that you can be rich and full. The second is called warmth. All right. Warmth is that level of kindness. And I wrote a book called The ROI of Kindness, proving that kindness builds in a tremendous level of actually bottom line results. There it is, right there. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome, Brian. This is such a good book, everyone. You gotta grab this book. If you find it, grab it. It is phantasmo. Sorry, Brian, go ahead. Sorry.
So the first W is welcome everyone as if for your long lost friend that just walked through your door. Man, I'm so great. It's so great. It's like the way I feel looking at you two today. I feel incredibly joyous. I feel welcome, and hopefully you feel welcome as well. Secondly, warmth. Now, where does warmth matter? It's easy to be warm and kind to warm and kind people. Where it matters is when people are not at their best, when people aren't being kind. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? Maybe they had something happen at home today. Maybe they're just having an off day. Maybe we've had miscommunication we could clear up. But it's being warm when others are not at their best that really starts to break through. But the third W is the key one in this discussion. It's we, W-E. When I was working with this MCH team, what I discovered more than anything else was that all of these professionals were bringing welcoming and warmth to their patients, but not to each other. And that was where the disconnect was. And so we said welcoming and warmth isn't applied to your operations teammate if you're in sales and vice versa. It doesn't matter how good you are with your customers. It's going to end up somewhere. It's going to come out wrong. And so they started to work on that. And the fourth W is the outcome of welcoming, warmth, and we. And it's called world class. You become a world-class organization. No matter your size, you're world-class. Well, we built this into their culture. We built it in so that every meeting we brought up the 4 Ws. All right. Every time that there was any kind of a get-together, 4 Ws, we put them up on the walls and some fun posters. In 1 quarter, after 2 years of being in the 50s in their metrics, which is so far below what they allow, they rose into the 90s. And they stayed in the 90s from that point forward, as that became indoctrinated culture. So that's the power of everything that we've just been talking about. So I had to throw that in because it really clicked when listening to some of those great comments.
I love it.
That was bonus, like bang
oh
on,
my
Brian.
goodness. Yeah, that was so good. Thank you for that. Guys, use it for your teams, please.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, DJ, right? So, and Brian, so we all know, right? We all know this is the root. Collaboration is the root. However, there's this thing called ego that sometimes gets in our way. So, Brian, how would one, like when you walked into your vice president of operations office, right? The both of you could have been there 2-3 years. If you didn't walk in, would he have ever walked in your place, right? So your office. So the question then becomes, you're leading that charge of walking in. So as a leader, as a teammate, as everyone, we have to break our ego down, because often it's, like, oh, come on, man, like I worked so hard to do that. And, you guys just screwed me up and da-da-da. And it's that ego builds back up. So how would one go and break that ego down in order to be fully present?
I love it. That's a fantastic question. And I like to, the term I use, that if you want to build a successful organization, you got to move from ego to WEGO. All right. That's where we're going, from ego to WEGO. And a starting place is a trait that is never taught. It is a choice that if you make it, you're on your path to being continually improving. And it's called humility. Now, why are people more humble? Because a lot of people think that you can't be confident and be humble. Not true. You can be very humble and very confident, because being humble doesn't mean you think less of yourself. It means you think of yourself less. But the reason why humility is so crucial, if you want to break through from ego to WEGO, is only those who are humble are lifelong learners. Because only those who are humble are always looking to get better, because they believe they can. They believe they can learn every day. They would rather be wrong and learn something from it than try to look good and always have to be right. Only when you're humble do you focus on your character more than your reputation. And when you focus, your character is who you are. Your reputation only what others think you are. And if you focus on character consistently with being a humble breakthrough leader, eventually it'll merge with your reputation. It'll become who you are. So start with an understanding humility is really a hunger to learn, and a belief that you can change and improve every day. Secondly, once you come from that place, the most effective, simple, practical way to be more fully present is to ask more than tell. That's it. It's to ask more than tell. See, we've been conditioned to think you go to a leader for answers, and there's a time for that. But if you want to work with all different kinds of people, you really want to build a team that you have faith in, because you believe that they're all self-leaders, then it's the quality of the question you ask that'll determine the quality of your team. So we got 2 ears, one mouth. That's a clue. All right. That gives you an idea of a ratio to start working on. And so when you do that, see, what was unique that day was, until I had gone into that, my VP of operations office, I always wanted to tell, this is what we're going to do. I never asked. That day I shifted, asked first, and I was amazed at how much we had in common. Because when I wanted to tell, it was always about what I cared about. All right. When I asked, I started to discover that he cared about our company every bit as much as I did. He just looked at things differently, which together, what is collaboration? Collaboration is putting your resources together. I do not want to have a team of people who are just like me, because we'll only see this much. I want a team of people who are good at the stuff I'm not good at. I want a team of people who are fascinating and powerful in ways that I'm not, because then moving towards that common goal, that's when we become much more resourceful. It's really funny that when I left that corporation. The guy who championed all the things that we had built together was a VP of operations. He became like we were. It was as if we were still together because when I asked instead of told, I actually gave him a chance to tell me who he was. And until then, I wasn't paying any attention.
Oh,
That's amazing.
My
amazing.
gosh.
I'm glad I brought that.
So
'cause I
much
was
of the
waiting
stuff you
for
said was so
ego to
good.
WEGO. Go DJ. Go.
I was just gonna say so much of what you said was amazing. I'm gonna replay this back many times. I mean, it was just there's so much good stuff in there. It's crazy.
Well, let me ask you guys in your audience a question.
Yeah.
When you ask somebody what they think, you ask them for their feedback, you ask them for their input. How does it immediately make that person feel?
Oh, like they're worth something. Like they've got
Exactly.
value. Yeah.
Makes them feel valued. It makes them feel respected. Right. And you cannot build a team until there's a feeling of respect and trust. It makes them feel trusted. So right away, and you think you're doing that to build that trust, but here's the benefit: you get to learn a perspective that isn't yours. All right, and whenever you seek to enrich somebody else's experience, you can't help but enrich your own, because you have to go places and think about things and learn perspectives you never had before. So just thinking about asking questions, great questions, what happens is you immediately realize, wow, number one, I'm being fully present because if I ask it, I really want to listen. And number two, I'm more effectively than almost any other way, I'm saying to them beyond words, because I'm interested in your perspective, that I respect you, that I admire you, that I trust you to tell me what is really the way you see things. So there's a great gift in the power of asking more than telling.
That's awesome. I know we're running out of time, Brian. Do you have another couple of minutes, like 3-4 minutes?
Yeah.
I know we're okay.
Hey,
okay, because
once we got on here logistically, baby, I'm staying as long as I can.
Yes.
Beautiful. Maggie says, the story of my life as a nurse. On Tuesday, I gave them this talk and they were complaining about each department, ending with everyone agreeing that it's the only way to win. 100%. I love that. I love that. That's exactly right. Not only do we have to apply these principles when people are reciprocal, but when they're not, show love, respect, understanding, and empathy. Empathy so inspired by this conversation. Joshua, now, Brian, I don't know if you know Joshua. Joshua's doing you being a runner, Joshua's doing 100-mile run from his home to his office. And he's been preparing for this. And we just had Josh on the show this week to talk about, what it is, like how, like you got to think, the preparation. So you're balancing your career, your sales, your team, your life, your family, and preparing for a 100-mile run. So you want to talk about being busy, kind of gives everybody the perspective like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time. It's like, yeah, well, you do. You just got to find it.
Yes, you do.
But
you
amazing.
Just gotta find it.
Yeah. Humility is the hallmark of true confidence. And Joshua says empowered. Yeah. So when you ask somebody what they think, you're empowering them as well, too.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Brian, this is the big one because I want to close out with this. So in closing, what would you suggest people do immediately today to work through where some friction might be in their career, in their life? And what are some of the first steps they take right now, like the second this show ends, to fix it?
Excellent. I got a couple things. Number one, let's start with energy. All right. Look at yourself on a 10-point energy scale. 1 being comatose, 10 a child on Christmas morning, 10
15.
Dan and DJ. That's it. All right. And ask yourself the $1 trillion question once you've created that perspective. Where are you living on that 10-point scale? Where have you lived your life? And unless your answer was 99.7, then as a humble breakthrough leader, all right, the starting place is to go on an ETP. That is an energy transformation program. And so for the next 30 days, focus on the 2 areas that absolutely positively will help you elevate your energy. The first is to change the way you move. Add movement to your life. If you want to move your business, you want to move your sales, you want to move your career, you got to move yourself. Because anytime you've been at your best, you have moved your body distinctly differently. So for the next 30 days, never sit at your computer desk for more than 15 minutes without getting up and moving. Smile more to the point it feels weird. All right, because it's training you to change your movement. Add 5 minutes a day for the first week. So I'm not talking 5 minutes each day. But 5 minutes for week 1, 5 minutes for week 2, 5 minutes for so the 4th week of your ETP, you've added 20 minutes of active movement to your life in a way that you enjoy, whether it's running, whether it's dancing, whether it's yoga, whether it's walking, whatever it is. So 1, change the way you move. You want to move your business, you got to move yourself. Number 2, start every day by asking yourself, what am I truly grateful about in my life? Start with gratitude, which is also the pathway to your purpose. There is a book called Power versus Force that measures the frequency of emotion. We're electrical beings. We all have a frequency. The highest emotion of all is gratitude. So if you start your day by saying, what am I truly grateful about? You're putting yourself at your highest frequency. So number 1, if you do that for 30 days, those 2 things, change the way you move, start every day with what am I grateful about? You're going to start to see your energy rise from 6.5 to 7.3 to 9.2. You get above 9.0, you're easy to impress and hard to offend. And that is a dynamite recipe to be a great leader. Second thing, be more fully present. And here's a practical way to do it to add to your ETP. Pick out 2 people in your life, 1 at home, 1 at work. And the 1 at work or in your work life, make it the person you're pretty certain God put on the planet to bug you. Make it that person. And for the next 30 days, commit to be more fully present with them. Now, it doesn't mean you have to spend more time with them. You may have less time. But when you're with them, put the cell phone down. When you're with them, ask more than you tell. And then truly listen. And you watch, after about 3 or 4 days, being more present with those people, they're going to look at you differently and go, you've been working out? You're looking good. All right. And as you become more present with those 2, you'll develop that present muscle until that becomes who you are. All right. And being fully present is the key to building trust, because you cannot fake being present, can you? You know when somebody's, checking ESPN on their phone when they're supposed to be listening to you. And being fully present sends the unstoppable message: you are important, you matter, you count.
And that even matters for all of you on phone calls. Like it doesn't just matter in video or in person. Like even on phone calls, you can tell when somebody disconnects.
Absolutely. You can tell when they're, looking over and thinking about, looking at the menu while they're supposed to be talking to you. So those 2 are the way I would start that transition to not only building teams, but to building that real power of yourself as a breakthrough leader.
I just went through something yesterday. So I had a call early morning yesterday with some programmers for something I'm in the works on. And afterwards, they followed up with an email. And I'm looking at the email, and there's all these abbreviations. And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, okay, whoa. So I send an email back. I go, I appreciate the follow-up and the minutes and everything. And that's awesome. We'll put it into the books. But what does all this mean? And then one of the owner comes back and goes, you know what? I apologize, Dan. It's just abbreviations for the thing. He goes, we'll stop using them. I said, no. Keep using them because I want to learn. I need to learn this. And the lady that was holding the meeting says, I'm so sorry. I was using those the whole meeting, the abbreviations, the whole meeting. And she goes, so I just figured you knew what they were. And I went, I've never heard and I realized that, and it wasn't a bad thing. But what I realized was that when they were speaking, they were like, what do you think of this, this, and this? I was like, oh, and I kind of ventured off into my world of creativity. And it really hit home where I said, okay, whoa. And I said to her, I said, I apologize. I'm going to make sure I'm more present on the next call. It's just, I go into these creative modes, and it's not disconnecting from the conversation, but it's like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, oh yeah. And like your mind's piecing. Yeah. Like shiny things are, I have a real problem with shiny things. But so I wanted to share that because it is so true that presence piece is paramount.
Brilliant in 2 regards. 1, for you to share that with people, because people will go, I do that too. And 2, for you to be aware of it yourself. You now know the next time what you want to improve, that you're going to really listen first. A lot of people think that if we're fully present, we'll get less done. You actually get more done because you begin to be fully present with that task when it's the present task. With 100%. Each person, get more done in 5 minutes than 5 years.
Yeah, there's a lot less wasted time, I feel like.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. We've all done it. We have that Friday where we're going to leave at 2 all week long. We've been working 8 to 8 On that Friday, we get more done from 8 to 2 than we had all week because we were fully present.
100%. Oh, awesome. Great way to end.
Oh
Fantastic.
my God, thank you.
Now, the
Thank
big
you,
question
thank
is,
you, thank
DJ,
you.
did you pick the right quote for today?
Dude, hopefully we'll see, but all I could tell you was amazing. And some of the empowered, this is inspiring. Jeff Patterson said, they asked the question, how do you stop yourself from chasing those shiny objects?
Great question. Could we answer that before we go?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that? Or do we want to answer
Brian,
that
can you answer that before we go?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ask the question again because I lost it a little bit.
No problem. How do we stop yourself from chasing those shiny objects? So how do we stop ourselves from breaking out into like a
being
different
fully
thought
present
pattern
and not
trying to be present?
95% of it is just being aware of being fully present, because you'll pull yourself back. Leave perfection to God. Just get better at it each day. Be more fully present. Secondly, a great way is to actually condition yourself to listen before you formulate. All right. Most of the time we're in a conversation when somebody's talking. What are we doing? We're thinking about what we're going to respond. We're thinking about what we're going to say next. Take a breath. As they're speaking, take a breath. That's an automatic cue to be fully present, to put you in the moment. Take it in, and then that response will not only come, it'll be more on target. All right. So that's a big part of it. Is number one, just settle down. What you focus on is what you create. So focus on that person and relationship, and you'll create relationship. Take a breath, fully listen, and leave perfection to God. You're on your way.
That's awesome.
I absolutely love that. And Brian, you have no idea, but Dan, you're about to be mind blown by that. Literally, like, I feel like took us right to the quote. But so Lisa, thank you for the question. But
so Scott says, I'm doing a 50-day gratitude challenge right now. It's truly a great day starter.
Awesome.
I love that. Good for you.
It
brother.
really
Good
is.
for you.
Yeah, the greatest audience.
I think it was Denzel Washington in a video I heard.
Brian, we do. Our audience is the best audience on the planet. It's the best audience for any morning show. We say it every day. They're fully engaged. They ask questions. They love the guests. They bring so much energy to the conversation. Like we have things scheduled for half hour every day. Yeah. And I don't think there's been a day where we've only done a half hour.
Right now. They're still here.
Yeah. It's been crazy.
Seriously, thank you all. But yeah, this was amazing. This was an amazing show. But yeah, gratitude, starting your day with gratitude, guys. There's nothing better. I heard Denzel say it. First thing he does is hit the floor next to his bed and think of a list of things he's grateful for. And man, that changes everything. But yes, gratitude, all of this. Brian, thank you so much. Holy cow. This literally was like the greatest show. I mean, you see everybody's still coming in. They're still coming in. Tyler just came in with a comment. But so they're still coming in, guys. I am trying to close the show, I swear. But yeah, they're still coming in. Gratitude comes with action. If you list 10 things you're grateful for every morning, you'll be surprised. Warm, clean socks may make the list. Yes. The smallest things. Start there. It's that simple. But yeah, I agree. Oh my God. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dan, as always. Thank you, American Logistics, for making this possible as you do. Thank you, guys. Everybody who's watching, if you weren't sitting here giving us these comments like you are all the time, we would not have the energy and not be as excited as we are. So thank you, seriously, for just joining us weekly and going over time and us abusing your time like we are. I'm so sorry that we do that. Hopefully it really makes a difference in your day.
You're not sorry. You're having too much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously. But again, thank you, everybody.
I'm excited. Share.
Sales Chatter Live, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till whenever we finally decide to stop, Eastern Standard Time. This is from Prasad Mays, and it's the mind is like water. When it's turbulent, it's difficult to see. When it's calm, everything becomes clear.
That's why they say never make a decision in a valley.
There you go. Take that breath.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information